Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guests today are Lucy Melvin, Senior Manager for the Human Capital Practice at Deloitte Consulting, LLP. Cynthia Bullock is Human Resources Director and Division Administrator at the Virginia Department of Transportation. And Dia Taylor is Chief Human Capital Officer and Deputy Ethics Counselor at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It's good to have you all here today. And let's get right to it. It's an exciting time, but also a difficult time to be in human resources, I think, in the public sector. And a lot of new technology innovations, especially in the information area, cognitive technologies, cognitive recognition technologies, artificial intelligence, all of these things are starting to impinge on the work that people do. And Dia, why don't we start with you? Are you looking at these things, and how will you inculcate them in a way that is positive for your workforce?
Sure. We're absolutely looking at how artificial intelligence and other technologies will change the way we do public health work, and we're looking at it in a really positive way. And so our workforce, we have a task force that was established a couple of months ago, actually back in October of last year, and we've been looking really hard at how we incorporate data science, how we ensure that our workforce is data fluent, not just our scientific community, but also our administrative staff, so that they understand the importance of how to use data for decision making. So we're embracing it in a really positive way. We're looking at ways to use artificial intelligence to take on that more transactional type work, to crunch bigger data, so that then we can use our scientists and our administrators to do that more human-centered work. And so we're embracing it. We look at it as a really positive thing for the future for our agency.
Yeah, that idea of data fluency, that seems to underline a lot of this type of, a lot of these technologies and a lot of the way work is changing. How will you get that data fluency into people?
So we're looking at a couple of different ways. And so one way we're looking at it is to ensure that we're hiring people who are data fluent. So looking at different markets and networks that we'll use to hire this new skill set. In reskilling our workforce, we'll be working to assess their skills and determine those who can be reskilled or upskilled because they have a foundational level skill that we can use to ensure they have the data fluency that we're looking for. And again, helping them understand how to use data in their day-to-day work more effectively.
Yeah, okay. And Cindy, VDOT, I mean, transportation itself is changing so much, even as we speak. So what's going on there?
It is. We have a lot of conversations surrounding the way that transportation is changing, and there's so much information available in regard to futuristic topics such as autonomous vehicles and drones that can do first-line bridge inspections, to sensors in roadways and vehicles. So we're having those conversations. We're looking at, in partnership with Deloitte Consulting, we're looking at ways, macro trends across transportation as a whole, not just in the Commonwealth, but in how that's going to affect us, what disruptors we're seeing that are going to impact the way that we do work. And from that, we also looked internally to see what's happening in our own organization and what our own workforce and leaders see coming forward. And so from that, we can start to plan for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
And in applying these tools, I guess, is it fair to say there's an external focus on the field of transportation itself, and that's becoming a data generating force, if you will, and also internally, as people do things and have habits and works and interaction, that generates data about the workforce itself.
Absolutely. So we took all of that information from both the external and internal scans and put them into action, honestly. We did a kind of put some initiatives, created initiatives from that information. We kind of packaged it the right way so that we could take action. And that is exactly what influenced what we are going to focus on.
Interesting. Okay, and Lucy, you have a pretty broad view across government, and both federal, I guess, and state. And what are the big trends here with respect to adopting some of these cognitive, let's say, or AI types of technologies?
Yeah, well, it's exciting. I think that's the thing that you can definitely hear from everything that's being shared, because what we're recognizing is that this is really about the opportunities to augment human work with technology. So it's not replacing the work that humans are doing, it's thinking about more effective ways to do work, whether that is augmenting human intelligence or looking at automating things that are highly transactional, so that humans in the workforce can be focused on the things that are more high value and added value. And that's something, when we look across the federal government, that's been part of the president's management agenda, is moving from low value to high value work. And we also are seeing some movement across agencies to grapple with these questions of how do we get the skills that we need? How do we get more data scientists, especially across federal agencies? OPM just recently put out some guidance on how that can be done within current classifications, and I think there are good questions being generated by leaders like yourselves about what different agencies need and what may need to change in the future when we think about how the government workforce is classified.
Yeah, that's a really good point, the idea of augmentation, because I think the most important thing for many people in doing their jobs is to have discretion in how they go about it, the job itself, and also the decisions they make with respect to the content of their job, whether it's a public health type of scientist researcher or someone concerned with, what should the traffic pattern and light cycles be at this particular big intersection. And so I guess the question is, how do you get people to understand and overcome their skepticism that this can actually make your job more enjoyable, even though you might spend less time doing something that machine we're going to put in will do?
So one thing we've done over the last year or so has been to include our workforce in the future direction as we're visioning. So we're bringing them to the table, either through focus groups because of their background, so by what we call occupational series, or by network, bringing in our young professionals network, talking to the employees to say, here are some changes we're considering. Here's the future vision for our organization and how we will use different technologies and techniques to get our work done. Talk that through with us. So what our goal is to engage them so that they will adopt fast and then become advocates in many ways as well. So we're involving them pretty early and pretty consistently through the process so that they don't feel like something's being done to them, that they have instead have become a part of the solution for the future.
And I imagine some of maybe the strongest skeptics initially can become your best allies over time.
Absolutely, that is the goal. That is the goal for inclusion and engagement.
And Cindy, your organization deals much more directly with the average person in the public, because everybody complains about traffic and everything that VDOT might touch. And so how can it help in that process of the interaction between VDOT people and the public, which is really such a big topic nowadays across all government agencies, that citizen service, if you will?
Right. Same thing as what Dia said. We keep them very, very engaged and informed, because if they don't know, then they're not able to have those conversations or answer those questions. So we engaged them from the beginning in helping those initiatives that I just talked about a minute ago. When we created those, they helped in that process. So we first gathered information on what they were seeing, and then we were able to help. Deloitte actually led a focus group with a large group of leaders to say, okay, let's take all that and, as I said earlier, prioritize. They were a part of that. So by having that understanding, and obviously that was a smaller group, but every message that we have is consistent, and that's starting from leadership through human resources, through all of our leaders, is to say this is about preparing you for the future. It's changing whether we want it to or not. So this is about preparing you, giving you the tools that you need, and just helping them to understand what's happening. And one of the other things that I've found that has been helpful, we have found, is that giving them real examples of how things change and what it means to them in their daily work, that helps it to resonate. And then they can, they understand, and they're not so fearful, and they see that, yeah, this really is working, and it's not just something we're talking about.
So Lucy, it sounds like if you do that right groundwork, by the time these tools come around, it'll seem natural to them, just like this is the right thing to do.
Right. Exactly. It's a lot about engaging your workforce so that they understand the benefits and feel part of that journey for the organization. They understand the vision for where things are going, how the mission is changing, how those technologies can help them as an employee, and also how they help achieve the mission more effectively. I think something that we know across government organizations is that that's a motivation for employees, is really being a part of the mission and execution of that. And fundamentally, when we talk about applying these new technologies to the work, it helps improve mission delivery. And that's sort of that fundamental opportunity that we can't lose sight of as we talk about it.
All right, good place to take a break. I'm your moderator, Tom Temin, on the discussion, How Will the Future of Work Change in Government? Part of the Future Forward Government series, sponsored by Deloitte Consulting LLP, here on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network.